All right, so we are back, and the Stay Puft Marshmallow all melted away. And who do we find inside? It's our friend, our pal. You might recognize him from Drums, Etc., the staff history books in our yearbook. We should have a Drums, Etc. yearbook.
Oh, that would be great.
That would be amazing to flip through pages. Evan Shoebrooks, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You know Evan Shoebrooks? Remember that story?
Yeah, we're going to tell that story. That's a good story.
Yeah, it is a good
Evan
story.
Yes. That's good to be back.
Yeah, thanks for coming back.
This
It's always
is-
a pleasure when you stop in the shop. And
This is stellar.
yeah, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And any excuse to get together and talk drums and hang out
Ghostbusters.
is a great one.
Yeah.
Any excuse to talk Ghostbusters or drums, whatever.
I don't want to take credit for that idea tonight, but that might have been my idea tonight.
Yeah. I will say, the fact that we happen to have full Ghostbusters get-ups and proton packs shows that chances were really high that we were going to go with that idea and go with it.
I like it.
I love it.
I
The
should do it
best
again.
intro ever. Good luck beating that, future guests. That's going to be the bar has been set very, very high. Cool. So we like to jump through a bunch of segments here, just kind of to stir the pot a little bit, to talk about drums, drumming, drummers, all sorts of stuff. You know what we do here, folks. So the first segment here that we just began is Crank It Up, Turn It Down. In this segment, I'm going to throw out a couple controversial drum habits, maybe some things that folks do, some things that folks frown upon for whatever reason. No wrong or right answers. And we're each going to crank it up or turn it down. You dig it?
Ooh.
Crank it up.
All right.
If it's your jam, crank it up to 11.
Let's see if there's a hot take today.
Yeah, exactly. I love when we disagree.
Oh, yeah.
You don't dig it, it's not your style, turn it down. So, I've got a couple topics here. All right, gentlemen, and I use that term very loosely.
Say.
Crank it up, turn it down, cymbal stacking.
Didn't we have this conversation when I walked in the store?
And I literally planned this before you got here.
Yeah, that's
so
hysterical.
I really want to know. It's all written in pen, you see.
Yeah.
I go turn it down, but it depends on the genre.
Okay, where is it acceptable in your book?
It depends. I would think a metal setting. Obviously, I'm biased there, but I like it in some metal settings. Anything that's fusion too, I think it sounds good in a fusion setting.
Sure. A little punctuation there.
Nope. Sometimes I think you can put it in the right spot in a pop setting, but it is a very, very select spot. Mm-hmm. But overall, like I said, the one that I saw downstairs, like I think it sounds like a trash can lid.
I think
it sounds like a broken cymbal.
Most of the time they do sound that way. I'm going to crank it up. I have to. I think that I've always been a fan of like the old Ribbon Crasher. Rhythm Tech had one. Those were thin pieces of metal stacked together. And then Sabian had one that was... they called it the chopper, and I always refer to these things as choppers all the time.
I had
It was
one
the
of
first
those.
time I had seen one that was specifically a cymbal that was a stack. So they've been around for a long time. I don't have one that I use in a setup, but I would. Also, Meinl makes one. It's called the Crasher, and it's the same effect I always thought. You know,
Right.
the stacking cymbals or those metal pieces that you just kind of hit together. I like that effect, that sound, and I think it's pretty effective for different situations. So I'm going to crank it up. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because from our perspective, stocking the store, I was just telling Evan downstairs. It's funny you brought this up. I have been buying as far as Meinl's concerned. Let's use Meinl as an example. I haven't been getting the signature or Byzance stackers. I've been getting like the HCS brass instead of bronze, the cheapo stackers.
Right.
Because a lot of guys who are looking for that effect, it's not like you need this high quality alloy and this fancy hand hammering.
agree.
It's like, no. We want it to go
Yeah, the point is to make it sound trashy.
Exactly.
And
So
it sounds
So
trashy.
you don't need
That's
to
the
spend
point.
$500
exactly.
to get that.
Yeah, and you can make your own too.
Sure.
We had Adam from Meinl on here, and that sounds like a Meinl plug, but they're big into stackers. But anyway, he has a whole Instagram dedicated to people saying, hey, what does this cymbal and this cymbal sound like stacked? Because he's there at the factory being able to kind of put them together.
Right.
So people can get an idea. So you can make your own stack. I know a lot of guys retire broken cymbals that way. They'll stack it with something else. You know,
Good way to use it. So totally, I'm cranking it
I
up.
sent all these symbols back to Zildjian. I could have just stacked them and
Yeah, you could have made a
more money.
fortune.
I could have.
That could have been your Instagram handle.
Yeah, wouldn't that have been great?
Yeah, if
stacking-
only you knew it was coming. Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna crank it up.
I'm
Look at this.
outnumbered.
We're
All right.
agreeing.
Yeah. Well.
No, he turned it down.
I turned
Oh,
it
you
down.
turned it
I turned
down.
it down.
Yeah, we got to disagree with our guest here.
Oh,
Come
my
on.
God.
I literally no
Well,
pun intended. I trashed it when I walked in, so I gotta.
I was gonna say,
gotta die on that
yeah,
hill.
you kind of like you you turned it down, but you said some favorable things. So why you would in certain situations that
Yeah.
so I thought it sounded to me like you'd enjoy them.
I'm going to crank it up for the creativity side of things. I'm going to turn it down as far as it living in my regular setup.
I agree with that.
I agree with that.
I don't use one so anymore.
I don't either.
I had one. I had the Sabian one you're talking
We
about.
love them. Everyone should have one. None of us use them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Time
cool.
and place.
Cool.
It's a time and
Cool.
place.
Couple cranks up, couple turn it downs. Awesome. Here's another one for you. Crank it up, turn it down, flattening out your setup, your toms, your cymbals, flat.
I'll crank it up.
Cranking that up.
Yeah, I like it.
The aesthetics of it, or
I like. Yeah, actually, I do like the aesthetics of it. I think drums look better more flat than kind of tilted to me. And I tend to play my drums sort of flat anyway. I play shallow toms and a smaller bass drum, so I sit over my drums. I tend to sit over the drums that I play, so I like them flat. I mean, a little bit of a tilt, not maybe perfectly flat, but yeah, I'll crank it up.
Okay.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm with him on that one. I'm a flat guy.
yeah,
Yeah, for the
You
most
dig
part,
that?
most of my stuff is flat. And I mean, like you said, a little bit of a tilt,
Right.
but
For
I
the
mean, most of my
most
stuff
part.
is.
Flat.
I think
And let me-
everything is built up that
Right.
it's.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: when you first did that, did it completely throw you off? Because I remember the first time I tried to like flatten my stuff out, like kind of go with that Travis Barker kind of whatever look.
Sure,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? It totally. I was hitting rims left and right.
Yeah.
It totally like there was an adjustment period to get that to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And honestly, it never super was for me until I ended up playing. I ended up playing a 20-inch bass drum, which I was like, oh, it's kind of like the height relativity here. And then really when I raised my seat up, then I felt so much more comfortable literally playing over top of the drums rather than behind.
Right.
Because when I first started, I was sitting super low, and you flatten stuff out and you sit super low, and it's like you're hitting like the sides. It's rough. You're reaching over, and then I couldn't handle it.
I can. Yeah, I think so. I there was a little bit of that period where like, how is this even comfortable? This
Yeah.
doesn't even feel good. And then all of a sudden you get used to it. And adjusting the seat is key because you
Sitting
find
up
yourself
higher.
saying, oh, you're making these adjustments, but you forget about the most important part, that is your seat height. So you adjust that accordingly, and then your playing is just fine.
And I feel like I'm not a metal guy, but I feel like metal guys get there faster because just for the comfortability of playing the double bass pedal, they tend to raise up to get that angle just right, doing the double bass thing. You're a double bass guy, right? And I'm sure, I don't know this, but I feel like that getting that to be comfortable in practicing, you naturally kind of sit up a little bit higher to feel a little bit more comfortable with that. Where I could have just sat down low, playing heel down the entire time when I first started. I didn't come to that realization until later.
And I think it depends on the guy's playing method too. Always played heeled up. You know?
Yeah.
So if I was heel up, I mean, I was always sitting up higher and be able to push down. I like that, having that power. You can attest to that. I always had a heavy foot.
You do, yeah.
Yeah.
You have those heavy feet, man.
Yeah. So I just like sitting up higher and was able to. But it took me forever to find the kit setup that I like, and then when I found it, I ran with it.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's trial and error with that. I'm gonna turn it down. I'm gonna turn down the flat setup just to be a menace. No, just because I've played all sorts of different kits, and I think that I angle my stuff just a little too much to be considered like a flat type setup. I think the audience can tell, and that means that I've angled it just a little bit too much. But
Yeah.
to be fair, that's just a 4-piece setup. I usually play 4-piece. If I ever play a 5-piece kit and there becomes angles and they're slightly off, that drives me nuts. Like even sitting in the audience, if like the angles are like slightly off or one slightly higher, I just stare at that the entire time. But I'm a gear nerd and I'm nuts about that kind of thing.
Let's just bring back the '80s style and have them like
Yeah, like look
just
through your drums
just
to
look
the
through
audience.
the bottom of the
Drums are
drum,
this
no
big.
bottom head. Yeah, just
that's-
staring
12
you in
by
the
12.
face.
But that's a good point you brought up earlier, Sean. You're playing shallow toms. You have a little bit more room to get up on them.
Right.
Versus back in the day, you played behind your drums because they were so big that if you wanted to flatten them out, you had to sit up super high or you had to tilt them.
Right.
That was your only option. All right. Quick round here. Speed round. Crank it up, turn it down, stretching before playing.
Definitely cranking it up.
Now that I'm older, I gotta crank that one up too.
Definitely cranking it up. It's so important to stretch out. I think. I think any physical fitness instructor, right? You.
Oh, that
you
was-
studied it,
That was way back when.
That was way back
Yeah,
when.
that was way back when.
But you would
I think it was a
agree
Wednesday.
when you're ready to work out, you're going to stretch a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
you don't go.
You
You don't go
in
into things cold.
Yeah, so I think drumming's the same way. You're exerting all that energy and everything else. Just a little stretch here and there. I've been dealing with a little bit of tendonitis or tennis elbow. I don't think that was from drumming. I think that was from carrying the freaking drums. I do believe that. But anyway, I am suffering with that right now, and I wear this brace all the time, and I look like a goofball. But so
I
yeah,
also
I'm.
made fun of you for that today as well.
I know.
Yes, everything-
He gives me the side eye. He's
Yes.
like, "What's this thing? What is that?"
I love that you use the word suffering. Like, yeah, you think you got it
it's like,
bad.
yeah,
Sean's elbow hurts when he extends it a little bit further than you would.
yeah. So
Suffering.
I'm cranking it up, baby.
I'm on board with that.
Cranking
one.
it up?
Yeah,
I'm
I got to crank that one
I'm
up.
cranking it up with a caveat of I don't do it enough as I should. I can't tell you how often I just jump in cold and immediately regret it. And
There
the
it is.
gigs where you really do that, a little bit of stretch helps a lot. What are you doing? Is that actually good for you?
I don't know.
We need someone that knows more than us to know if that's actually a healthy thing to do. For those just listening, Sean is using a stick and kind of flipping it inside out, trying to stretch out his forearms a little bit, I guess, is what it's doing, and his wrists.
Does it work for you?
It works for me.
Then you keep doing it.
I will. Thank you.
There you go. You got the permission. Awesome. Yeah, that's good. A little bit of up, a little bit of down. That's the best way to crank it up, turn it down. We'll move forward and jump into our next segment, Drum Industry News.